Okay, hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are joining us from today. This is Jim McKeith, and thanks for joining us for today's FireMonkey Multi-Device Design Roundtable. Actually, I just realized I don't have a picture of me in here, but I'll turn my webcam on maybe for a minute, if that's working. Hello. We won't have webcams on the full time. But anyway, I just wanted to say hi real quick and introduce you to all of the potentially speakers that will be involved today. These are some of our speakers and that said they might be able to join us today for the roundtable. We'll see who is online here in a second. I'll run through real quick. We have Sarina DuPont, our Director of Product Management, Cindy Zabloks, I hope I'm saying her name right. She's lead UX designer, and you probably recognize Sarina. She's been in a number of our webinars, and Cindy actually has done some webinars with Sarina as well. And Cindy, I believe, has a couple of books she's written, fiction, if I remember correctly. Frank, Embarcadero MVP, he actually joined us last week, has some great stuff he's showing off there. Ricardo Boro from Brazil, another one of our MVPs. Eric is part of Grizzys, which they have some fantastic tools in Get a Package Manager and other things online you've probably seen. Sergi is one of our MVPs. He's also involved in help maintaining Get It, which is great. Andrea, he's online but on a train, so he'll probably be typing because he's let out a lot of noise. He has a number of Delphi books, and I think there's another one coming. Stefan is another one of our MVPs. He has the made the Kiss, which is there's a Kiss was included just because it's an awesome demo application. And actually, I thought I had these lined up. This is Eric, this is Serge, and this is Stefan, and this is Andre, and Andriano, another one of our MVPs from Brazil as well. So a lot of great people online. Let me see who we have that is, there's a list. So it looks like Eric is online, Frank and Sarina and myself right now. If you we're expecting to be online and be able to talk, then you have joined via the wrong link. So jump off and jump back on again. You should have another email with a different link for you to be able to join with, so you can participate in the Q&A. You can also just send chat messages as well if you are online and not able to join. There's a sound problem. It breaks for a long period. If anybody else is having sound trouble, let me know. It might be, Ertan, might be your connection specifically. Sorry, sometimes that happens. You might try disconnecting and reconnecting. So hopefully you all had a chance to watch the playlist. I did check. We've got quite a few people viewing it. You received an email with the playlist in it. This is some of the videos that were on the playlist. And most of these, so the playlist is a combination of new content that was created just for CodeRage, as well as we've curated some previous content and made it available as well, and other interesting content online. So a lot of great stuff was covered in here. So these are some of the things we may end up discussing today during the round table. Sarina, do you want to go ahead and say hi really quick, because I'll go around and let everybody introduce themselves.
Sure. Hi, I'm Sarina DuPont, Director of Product Management. I've been at Embarcadero, now IDERA, since June 2011, so about 8.5 years. And I really enjoy working with everybody here and also all our great MVPs, and I'm very happy to be with you here today.
Fantastic. I didn't realize you've been here that long, although I just realized I've been here almost 6 years now, which is crazy.
And time flies.
It does. And you know, it's work, but it's fun. I just have a blast. Everybody I work with here is great, so fantastic. Frank, you're online. You want to go ahead and say hi real quick?
Yes, hello from Germany.
Hello. Thanks for joining us, Frank. You were showing off your Fluent design, and you have like a framework as well you put together. So that's pretty exciting to see all that stuff you're doing.
Thanks.
And let's see, Eric, it says I don't see a microphone next to you, so it may not be connected to your microphone correctly. If you are able to unmute it and get it online, you could say hi real quick. But Andre, I see you. You want to say hi really quick? I know you're on a train. It might be noisy, but if you want to say hi, that'd be great. If you're connected.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi all. I'm on a local train. I'm sorry, I'm a bit late. Should have been home already.
You're fine. It's all good. Glad to have you, and thanks for. Now you have a new book coming out in the near future. Is that right?
Yes, in the next few months. I've already written like 400 pages. It's in the final stages. I have to hurry up, otherwise I will probably get killed by the
Wow.
editor, of course.
Great. Well, looking forward to that. Yeah, they got a lot of great stuff out there. So thank you for that. Eric, you still don't have a mic next to you, so I'm going to assume that if you do get it working at some point, that's great, and you're welcome to jump in. Everybody else, it looks like, is only on with chat functionality. So if you do have something you want to add to the conversation, you can just send me a chat message and I can read it out for you. Same thing for you, Andre, just in case you're not able to unmute yourself because it gets noisy. And actually, your audio was fine at that point. So real quick, actually, Sarina, we have, I know there's some interesting stuff coming up in the near future. I don't know if you want to talk about any of that stuff that's on the roadmap already.
Well, 10.3.3 is coming up in the future, in the near future. So there'll be a lot of exciting announcements that we'll be putting out around that, and some webinars and videos and content.
Yep, very cool. Lots of it's a one thing that's interesting about working inside Embarcadero. From now, previously I was an MVP, so I knew a lot of the stuff that was coming on and going on. But as an MVP, you're always like, wait, is this released or is this in beta or is this on the roadmap? But now it's even worse being inside because I have like couple additional levels of pre-knowledge, and I'm like, what's currently out? But anyway, great stuff. Yeah, I'm real excited about some of the things that are coming in 10.3.3 and had a chance to work with. Frank, do you want to tell us a little bit about your presentation you did on Fluent Creation?
Yes, it was a challenge to get it running in under 10 minutes, so I had to speed up things. Normally for my previous CodeRages here in Germany, I'm doing sessions about 45 minutes, and this is always a short time. And yes, I like to try to make this kind of video tutorials perfect. So normally for a 45 minutes video, there's let's say 1,000 cuttings in the video or audio streams. For this little 10-minute stuff, it was a little bit less, but of course it was my first video in English language, and also I've done the undertitles for the German, but this is not online at the moment, but it will be in the near future if I find the time. So yeah, it was a challenge for me, but I hope the main parts of my FireMonkey kit and of my FireMonkey ideas are presented to the customers or to the audience with this little, let's call it skill sprint.
Yeah, it was more like a skill sprint. That's one of the goals actually with this, is because I know exactly what you mean about making these webinars. Just yesterday, David Millington and myself were talking that we easily spend for a full 45-hour long video we'll spend, or a full hour content, right? Whether it be half an hour plus Q&A or whatever, is easily 8 hours of preparation when you look at all the research and recording and editing and stuff that goes into it. So, and I know sometimes shorter videos seem to be more effort per minute, but anyway, one of the goals was to reduce some of the load on you for that. So tell us a little bit about why you went and you made Fluent. I know you talked about this in your video, but why you made the Fluent creation framework you did.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the video, I started with FireMonkey with XA2, and at this point, let's say under XA6, many things are missing or not working, to be honest. Okay, so I dislike to click everything together with components in the IDE, because normally my app or my main app is driven completely from a database. So I do a UDP broadcast and then a TCP connection to the desktop system for my clients. And the client could transfer prepaid data from the main application from Windows to the app via TCP IP. And I have to react on different data sets in my app. So I have nearly no static content in my applications. And to create everything out of the database, you have to do it at runtime, of course. So I showed you the simple demo with the listbox items, and you have always to repeat listbox this, listbox this, listbox that, and so on. And sometimes it's boring, especially with the FMX new stuff. With you have always to repeat the type for settings. So for more, you have to place the stuff in front of it, and it was too much repeating. And in this case, I first saw this kind of fluid. I always call it fluid, but thanks to Stefan Glinke, he correct me. It's not fluid. It's no water. It's fluent. So my fluent creation, I first saw it with some JSON stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And I like to implement this in many cases. So if you do not use this kind of fluent creation component, I always design my interfaces for doing whatever to be able to put things after another. So with this fluent design. And yeah, I like this very much. You have less to type. This is one important thing. And I just read an article on Facebook today or yesterday. Somebody said, "Oh, I'm trying to make fonts bigger on a button, but I can do whatever I want. I have no clue why is the font not bigger on my device." And that's why, because you have to disable the styling for font size if you want to do this. And I dislike to do it in 2 or 3 steps. So I combine these functions. If you set the font size, it's automatically created the style, especially without font styling or font size styling. And this was the beginning. And it's much easier to think like this if you can write it in 1 line or in 2 or more lines, or I like to break it at the dots. And you can do it manual. In the middle of my video, I showed it that you can do it manual with this kind, but the magic of this begins if you have a pretty good library, if you register your components. And if you register the components you want to use in your application, you can call it by this config string, and you can combine these strings. So with, let's say, a dozen of good created configs, you can combine these and you can create everything you need in an app with all these configuration just by calling it by name. And that's the trick. So I have, of course, some collections of this configurations already, and if I need to do this kind of list box or this kind of component, I just copy the right configuration into my application and I'm done. So with the other stuff of my FireMonkey development kit, I'm able to create a new app in days or weeks against months or much longer.
So I've worked with a few people that prefer to create their controls at runtime instead of at design time with using the designers. And I guess when you're doing like mostly data driven, it makes sense. Why are the reasons would you want to do the controls at runtime versus design time?
So especially if you work in a team and you try to manage in a source code repository, you try to manage different kinds of FireMonkey or also on VCL. It's hard to understand if you get source code from another developer in the team, and you have to manage to get your changes in the DFM or FMX file with the changes of the colleague. And if you create this at runtime, not in, like in my case, database driven, if you just create objects at runtime, it's much easier to combine different version states with a source script repository, or as of course, I hope you're all using Beyond Compare.
Beyond Compare, I'm going to give a shout out Beyond Compare as well. It's one of those tools that seriously everybody should be using it, whether you're a power user or a developer. If you're you just have to be using it. It's just such an amazing tool. I could go on and on about Beyond Compare. Definitely on my list of top tools that I recommend to people.
Yeah, there are some tools you have to use. You can build icons with any software you like, but you have three other possibilities to get icons. You can use Axalis Workshop, or you can use Axalis Workshop, or you can use Axalis Workshop. This is the same with comparing source code. It's Beyond Compare, or Beyond Compare. No, I hope I did not offend a different developer.
No, I understand. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Eric apparently is online, but he is not hearing us at all. So, so maybe he can see and answer questions. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and put them in the question panel here. We didn't get any questions in advance, so whatever comes up during the webinar today is stuff we will do our best to discuss and answer here in the Q&A part, and then also I'm sure we'll have lots of just other interesting conversations as well, based on how this has gone in previous weeks. So, Sarina, this one's for you, and maybe it's something you can.
Sure. There's a question here: is when will Embarcadero supply a Delphi updated version with the resource to be able to release 32-bit and 64-bit APKs to the Google Play Store? Great question. So this is something that is planned for the 10.3.3 release. We've had an NDA beta program on 10.3.3 for the past couple of months that actually included the ability to create Play Store applications, and this will also include app bundle support, which is the new format from Google for Google Play Store applications. So with the upcoming 10.3.3 release, Delphi developers will be able to build Android 32-bit and 64-bit applications for the Google Play Store. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, so we can't say exactly when, just because this is kind of goes my, we're all software developers. We know things don't always go exactly as planned. So, just in case we, we do have a date in mind, but as things change and stuff, that date may change. So it will be hopefully soon. You can check out the roadmap online where we do talk about the release timeframe on there. And I think you can find it from Sarina's website. Go to community.idera.com/developer-tools, and you can find Sarina's blog and find the link to the roadmap. And I'll put it here in the chat window in a second. What other stuff's coming in 10.3.3 that we can talk about, Sarina?
Well, one of the things that I've been talking about, and I talked about in a blog probably like a month or two ago, is iOS dark theme support and macOS Catalina support for Delphi. And so dark theme is a popular paradigm that you're seeing across applications. I mean, it's been around for a number of years, and many different tools today allow you to switch between a light theme and a dark theme. And actually, that's something that we implemented in the 10.3.0 release for the IDE on the RAD Studio side, allowing developers to choose between a light theme or a dark theme. And if you work at night or in low light situations, being able to switch to a darker UI is a really nice feature to have. And that's something that Apple actually implemented with the iOS 13 release. So that's also something that we've been working on. And I actually created a blog post, I think about a month or two ago, right around the iOS 13 release, where I included some screenshots of how customers will be able to leverage this in their Delphi and C++ Builder iOS 13 applications once we release 10.3.3.
Yeah, that's going to be great. The I think so. Mac OS, Windows 10, Android, and iOS I think all now have dark theme support. So it's and then plus most, like you said, most IDEs, development tools, and such as well.
Yeah, even tools like, Photoshop have had a dark UI for a number of years. So there are a lot of different tools also in like the graphics industry that have a dark UI as an option.
Oh, there's an interesting question from Vladimir about convincing people about using FireMonkey development. I think most part, if you want to convince somebody to use FireMonkey, you can do an easy demo like an VCL form with hundreds of controls, and try to open this frame on a normal PC, and then show it in an FMX application with a beefy GPU on board, and you'll see the refresh of hundreds of components at runtime in one refresh cycle of the screen, because FireMonkey in this case is nearly working like a game engine. So yeah, the the screen is refreshed in one cycle of the refreshment of your screen. So that's the most benefit you see if you're comparing VCL and FMX applications.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to pull up a slide here. I have this real quick. So I put this together a while ago, and I'll share this up online actually as well. But this is kind of why I talk about why FireMonkey is awesome if you're looking at multi-device. Because if you're doing a platform-centric approach, most people will say, okay, we're going to start with iOS, and then we'll do it. And after we get iOS released, then we'll do an Android release. And we probably need to support Windows, so we'll hire another team to do Windows development, and then we'll hire another team to do the Mac development. Oh, and we need to do Linux development. So now you got 5 teams, 5 different projects. They're all on different release cycles. It's a headache. And of course, people are like, hey, we should use Xamarin. So here's the thing about Xamarin, and I've talked to people that have tried to use Xamarin, and it's not all rainbows and unicorns. You still have multiple files. So if you want to support Windows, Android, iOS, you still have to have 4 different project files, a shared project file, and then a project for each individual platform that you combine together as well. And so then that's where RAD Studio comes in. You have a single project file with your FMX smart layouts. You can have optional variants for platforms on there, and all this in one project for 5 platforms, which is pretty freaking amazing. So that, I think, when you start talking about that, the fact that you can develop it that much quicker, you get to market that much quicker with, you reach 5 platforms with one project. And yeah, and then like Frank said, the performance really is really good as well for most things. So
yeah, you have to take the look at from 2 different sides. Your point is the development, but the customer normally don't hesitate what you have to done to develop your stuff. But if you can convince a customer by just showing how much better FMX applications run on a normal desktop, yeah, you're done. And with the easier development, you have benefits on both sides. So maybe you want to do a new application VCL because you're using many third-party components, but if not, try to create a new application with FMX. Also, if you only want to target desktop applications on Windows OS X or Linux.
Yeah. And generally my advice is, if people are like, should I use FireMonkey or VCL, is if you know you need to use a specific third-party component that's only available for VCL, use VCL. Or if it is, and I think generally like data-driven grid applications, some of the grids are a little better on VCL, but that variation, that difference is changing and not becoming less pronounced. So generally, I think most people, and a lot of people I've talked to, are saying that now they do their FMX first and then plan on to look at something else using other platforms, or look at, yeah.
You really get fancy grid components on the market. That is for sure. But if you see the normal string grid or the normal approach to fill data into a string grid, you provide the data to the string grid. For 1 million rows, you provide 1 million data sets with every value for every column. Okay, but with an FMX grid, You only have to provide the values that are currently shown on the desktop, because the FMX Grid just calls you to show you exactly what you're seeing at the screen. And this is so much less data you have to transfer from database or for an internal memory to the grid. It's so much faster.
Yeah. So Vladimir is also saying, why not advertise RAD Studio potential end users of applications? So a while back we did our cool app contest, but we're kind of it was a contest every month. We would choose a cool app winner, and the problem we had with that was that it was hard to some months it was hard to pick. This week's like, oh my goodness, these are all so cool. But what we've done now is we've changed it up so it's just a cool app recognition. And so the idea is that we're encouraging people to submit the apps that they've built or been involved in, or that they've are aware of that are built with Delphi or C++ Builder, VCL, FireMonkey, etc. And then we will feature those from time to time. So we just recently did a case study with these guys here, Broken Games. They made Rise of Legions, which is actually a really fun game. I went out and played it on Steam and may have actually bought some in-game currency as well, but that's okay. Anyway, Tobias said that with today's optimizations, we still estimate that Delphi is 4 times faster than other language compilers. And that's, I think, a really big deal, is the fact that you can, have that fast turnaround time in compilation. So developer productivity is much better. And then I would say the end product, the compiled code, the application execution is just as fast or within an acceptable margin of faster or than anything else you would be using. So anyway, check out Rise of Legions if you haven't yet. And then if you're aware of some other cool, amazing things made with Delphi, especially with FireMonkey, come out here and submit them to the thing here so we can recognize them, because we would love to promote to more end users about why they should be, or why maybe they're already using great Delphi apps like beyond compares, I guess not in FireMonkey yet, but other great Delphi or FireMonkey applications. Let's see here. I think we have some more questions coming up. Let me look in the question window here. Okay, so Eric has audio now. Hey, glad you can hear Eric. So if you actually see if attendees. Oh, you can maybe talk now, Eric?
Yes, I'm here.
Ah, fantastic, Eric. So
Great.
a question for you. What does Grizzy mean? Where does that word come from?
It it comes from a night of drinking and coming up with names.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. No. One of our first mobile apps we created was we worked on a way to do communication with your friends differently by showing your friends in a hexagonal grid. And we needed a name for it that that was catchy, had a bit of a reference to a grid-like structure, but was still easy to trademark. So that's where it came from.
Got it. So now, if I remember correctly, you were involved in like some, I guess that communication thing. Like I was going to say some like Delphi-based streaming communication type platform or something at one point as well.
Yeah. We started as mobile only development of social apps. And initially there was the application. A kind of chat app with animated selfies and everything in that hexagonal grid-like structure with animated selfies. Mm-hmm. And later we also started working on a different way to access videos online, also all with FireMonkey and Delphi, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when do you choose FireMonkey versus VCL? I guess maybe we can.
Well, nowadays we just start with FireMonkey pretty much all the time, because you never know what's going to happen in the future, right? Even if right now you're saying, if you're working for a customer and he only wants Windows, you could say, well, that's okay for now, but maybe next year your customer says, hey, I need Mac too, and then you have to start over again. So from that point of view, we just always start on the FireMonkey side. We have some couple of VCL apps we use internally, because internally our development platform is Windows. But still, you know, we could have made those with FireMonkey just as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I know that there was early on some people were like, oh, I don't know that FireMonkey's ready for primetime yet. But most people I talk to now, they seem like, okay, yeah, FireMonkey, it's a mature platform. VCL is more mature, but definitely FireMonkey is mature and ready for most development tasks. Has been my experience.
Yeah, I think it's ready for prime time. There's still but you have that with every framework, right? There's still some things you may encounter some issues, but it's getting better every release. So yeah, and we're very happy with it here. So
yep, fantastic.
Yeah,
so
Eric, I think this is a major point. It's getting better and better and better, and I think we all hope on 10.4 without ARC stuff on the mobile side, so we can use exactly the same source code on Windows and the mobile. But you can see much improvement since XE8 and starting with the 10 point whatever, it's really getting better.
yes, definitely. Yeah.
Now your presentation was the simple FireMonkey HTML controller, right?
Yeah, I had 2 videos up there. One about creating an HTML control, which you can actually do with built-in FireMonkey classes. So you don't need any custom painting or anything like that. You know, since FireMonkey has a t-text layout class that actually supports, you know, rich formatting already. So I just took advantage of that. And I had a session about creating what I call a blur behind control, which is, you know, a control that you place on the form, and it will use GPU effects to blur whatever is behind the control. So you see that a lot on iOS and on Mac to blur the background behind toolbars and sidebars and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. You had that one. I remember when I was going through the videos and looking at it. When I went to download your video, it had that blurred bar on the title screen, and I'm like, "Uh-oh, something didn't render right," or some sort of like preview mode, or am I what's going on here? And then I realized, oh no, wait, that's the topic of his video.
Yeah. Nothing wrong there. Yeah, I just ran that demo app on the first PowerPoint slide, so you could see how it works. Yeah.
Actually, a while back, long ago, I did a CodeRage session on exceptions, and one of my slides was a blue screen of death. Just to talk about how if the exception is not handled by something, then it becomes a blue screen of death. And Anders Olsen was hosting it, and he breaks into the chat with me. He's like, "You gave me a heart attack when I saw that blue screen." Anyway, so I have a question here, and whoever feels like they want to answer it, you're more than happy to pipe in here, although it might be Sarina question. Rick saying, I still have a difficulty wrapping my head around the use of multi-resolution images. It seems like a very powerful aspect, but only a little useful. How can I determine all FMX supports that support multi-res images? And I've read about how FireMonkey determines which images of multi-res to display. However, how can I easily predict while designing what image will be used at runtime?
I was just in the process, hi Rick, actually replying to you. I think I'm going to paste in a couple links to you that include some additional information. I've done actually a number of blog posts on that particular topic. In general, at runtime, FireMonkey looks at the screen scale and picks the best image. If you're working with custom icons, I know I saw a question from you specifically on iOS and Android. So for iOS and Android and all of our styles that we provide, the built-in styles, the custom premium styles, and also additional themes that you can download through the Get It Package Manager, all of those styles are optimized for 1x, 1.5x, 2x, and 3x resolutions so that the icons look crisp and really nice across all the different types of resolutions that users may have depending on their end user device on iOS and Android. Now, in terms of custom icons, you would want to use 1x, 1.5x, 2x, and 3x, or at least 1x, 2x, and 3x. 1x is what is used at design time in the IDE. And then nowadays it's usually 2x or 3x at runtime, depending on the device. And you can use a multi-res bitmap for that, and you can actually load in multiple resolution images. And that's supported, for example, with the tab control, the list control. You can use an image control and add that yourself. And we've done, I think, a number of webinars on that. I'm going to look for some links here and put together a little list of links and actually reply to you in a minute with those.
There's a comment here, another question here. It says, one thing I miss the most on FireMonkey is DevExpress Grid. Can you please convince them to make it for FireMonkey? Eric, I've talked to, this is other Eric, apparently we have two Erics. I've talked to DevExpress, and they are working on some FireMonkey, or they've indicated they're working on some FireMonkey components, but I don't know what the time frame is on that, or what the status is, or what components that will be. So yeah, we've talked to DevExpress. They're working on FireMonkey components, they said, but check out the wall-to-wall grid. Definitely a very, very good grid that is useful. Let's see, the products. Yeah, firepower. Yep, firepower. Okay, I was making sure I was on the right one. The firepower grid by wall-to-wall. That's a really, really good grid and component suite as well. If you're looking for a really dynamic, powerful grid for FireMonkey. Sarina, this I guess probably more of a further down the roadmap comment here about Vulcan Metal and some of the other changes that are going on in the industry. So for those that don't know, a lot of the industry's moving towards Vulcan, which is a new, I guess, kind of replacement for OpenGL, if you will. But Apple has decided that they have their own framework called Metal now that they're switching everything to, and they're no longer going to support OpenGL. But Vulcan, I think Vulcan actually said that they have a way to make Vulcan work on Metal or something. But anyway, so there's some changes going on in the industry, moving away from OpenGL to Vulcan and Metal and such. And then there's another one too that was by Firefox, I think. Anyway, Sarina, do you want to mention a little about what our plans are in the roadmap for updating these things?
Yeah, we actually have plans to support Metal 2, the Metal 2 GPU drivers on macOS and iOS with the 10.4 release. And so that's something that we're planning for 10.4. And we've been following a lot of the different announcements. As you mentioned, there are, depending on the vendor, the different drivers and different ways that people are approaching it. I've read some articles around Vulcan and Metal. And something that we're going to have a look at right now, the focus is around supporting Metal 2 for macOS and iOS, because at some point that may become mandatory.
Yeah, yep. And that's honestly one of the tricky things is that there's a lot of fads that look exciting. And, for example, Windows Phone was one of those things that people were like for the longest time, when are you guys support Windows Phone? When are you guys support Windows Phone? And we didn't. And now it's like pretty much officially gone. And it's like, well, it's a good thing we didn't put a lot of effort into that. So yeah, it's one of those things you have to just be careful that you don't jump on every fad, because that takes a lot of effort and a lot of time, and not always necessarily able to get that done. Mixing VCL, FireMonkey, and .NET is very important for me for long-term projects. Collaboration between Embarcadero and Rib Objects to support Hydra would be great. It's such a possible collaboration. I mean, they're a tech partner. I've had conversations with Mark and John and some of the other folks over there at RIM Objects. So I'm not sure what more you'd like to see from that, but yeah, I was going to say, when I started reading your question here, I was going to say you should check out Hydra from RIM Objects that does that, and there's a couple other ones as well that I'm not remembering. Monkey Mixer was one. Although Hydra, I think, is probably the most mature out of the ones that do the mixing there. There may be other ones, and I apologize if I'm missing other ones.
Yeah, I know David Millington also had created a component to embed FireMonkey Forms in a VCL form, or the other way around. I don't remember, but yeah.
Yeah, but I talked to him, and I think it's out of date with the new version.
Okay, yeah, I tried it recently. It still worked, but it may need some work. Yeah.
Oh, if you have a running version, I love to see it.
Yeah. Okay, I'll get it to you.
So yeah, actually, I was just talking to RIM Object saying I wanted to do a joint webinar around Hydra, because I think that is useful to be able to do that. Have that more dynamic, flexible tool belt, if you will, with other being able to combine things. So the comment here about documentation around FireMonkey, there actually are, if you go to Packet Press, they have, I want to say 5 or 6 different books, a few of them by Andre that around FireMonkey. So I would recommend check that out from Packet Press. But their doc wiki is always expanding with more content as well. So what do you think about virtual reality in FireMonkey? Now, if I remember correctly, Andre, you did that, didn't you?
Yes, I did some demos a few years ago with FireMonkey 3D, and it's suitable for some kind of stuff. You have to deal a bit with performances if you really want to stretch it over a bit, but it's doable, and you can accomplish quite nice results in a little effort. I just wanted to also say to the people asking for an ABC guide for FireMonkey that my book actually is intended to be that way. So there are a number of general concepts covered. So you may want to have a look at it when it will be published, of course.
Yeah, so you have a couple of books already, right? The cookbook.
Just one. I'm trying to finish the first one, and it's
Okay.
happened to be a much more difficult topic than I expected. I think I greatly underestimated the effort, and I really can't believe how many people are actually writing so many books, and I'm striving to finish my first one. So that's funny.
I've been involved in contributing to books before, and it is a lot of work. Absolutely. So, it's yeah. Danielle has the Delphi cookbook. William has the Delphi programming projects. Primoz has the high performance Delphi. So yeah.
I really envy some legends authors like Marco Cantu, of course, or Kerry Jensen, or Primoz, of course, and so on. There are a number of books out there that would probably take ages for me to write.
Well, you get your first book done, I'm sure they'll get easier after that.
I hope my first book won't be the last one. So I'll look for how this thing will end up.
So Mark's comment that he's confused on the format here. So the idea that with CodeRage this week is there was a playlist that you received, Mark, in the email for from GoToWebinar that included a YouTube playlist that had a bunch of videos on it. Here's some of the ones that were included on that playlist. And so the idea is that you could watch those during the week and then join the Q&A the roundtable here to ask questions, and then also just for a conversation about the topic. So hopefully you saw that video during the week and had some questions. If you do, go to put in the question panel here and we'll get them answered for you. Actually, I see there's more questions coming in faster than we're getting answered now. So the idea was, in the past, the feedback we've gotten about CodeRage was that people aren't always able to attend because of scheduling issues and time zones. So the idea is that by making it available during the week, people can watch it on their own schedule. Here's a question. Is it possible to use FMX Graphics, T-Bitmap, T-Canvas, T-Render, etc. inside a VCL application? Well, that would be, you could use Hydra for that, or you could do, if you had it as a DLL, would be one other way you could do it. I mean, anything's possible, depending on how much effort you want to put into it. Does anybody have anything they want to add to that?
If you can use a DLL, it's the simplest way because you have your own runtime for FMX inside the DLL, so no hassle with different UI loops.
So here's a comment here about adding web as a target from Delphi. Unigui, TMS Web Core, IntraWeb are all great frameworks. We've had conversations. There's nothing on the roadmap yet officially on that. I don't know if you want to add anything about that, Sarina.
We are always looking into, different. We're always looking at our roadmap and into different, functionality that we can add. We recently did a survey, I think about 2 months ago, on web specifically, if I recall correctly, to see what our customers are looking at. And that's definitely an area that we're considering for the future in terms of supporting a product. There's nothing to mention on this particular call, but it's something that we're looking into. And as Jim mentioned, there are a number of different solutions today that also work with Sentra XJS that customers can use from within Delphi, that are third-party offerings.
One of the things that's tricky that I've learned since coming to Embarcadero about things like this is that, especially where we have a number of tech partners that are producing great frameworks, is, we want to make sure that what we provide is a good solution, but at the same time, we're going to have to be cognizant of the fact that then it puts, these tech partners have been supporting us, and that, that they're competing with a feature we're shipping. So anyway, it's always complicated to do something like that. Andrea, do you have an ETA on when your book's gonna be done? Besides, as soon as you can get it done.
Well, the ETA was end of the year, but I guess it could slip a couple of months because of the review process. It has been a moving target in the last year, so I want to say to ask for a pardon for all the people who actually pre-ordered the book, but it's coming. That's I can say that I'm really trying to get it done.
All right, great, and I totally understand. So there's a couple people apparently missed the playlist, so we put the playlist here in the chat window. It's in your email you got from GoToWebinar, but I'll put it in here as well so that you can have it. If I can, come on. Why is GoToWebinar won't let me copy the playlist? What in the world? How can you break copy and paste? All right, I will get it here in a second. Next question while I'm doing this. Let's see. So the couple FireMonkey development kits that were, Frank, is yours available on your website?
Yes, of course, I can paste the link.
Yeah, go ahead and put the link in there, that'd be great. And then there's a couple other ones out there. We really should put together a, there's T-Frame Stand that's a great one as well. You know what, I
now
need
has
to
a twin.
What's that?
And T-Frame Stand now has a twin component that is T-Form Stand.
Yes,
and yes, go ahead.
Go ahead. That's what I was going to say. Go ahead. Yeah, please keep going.
Well, the FMX project that you can find on GitHub on my account, and it is the topic of my session for CodeRage. It's a simple prototypal visual framework that has been inspired from the current low-code approach that you can see in Google Flutter and Apple SwiftUI technologies. So I really like to hear some feedback about the community about that, because I've presented it at a couple of conferences with pretty good feedback so far. So I like the approach. I'm not really a low-code guy, but I think that having some kind of scaffolding utilities, retaining the ability to have a custom RAD designed part of your UI can actually improve the general productivity of a developer. So that's the aim of my project. I'm really open to comments and questions about that.
So the FMXer is there. Oh, here's right there, FMXer.
FMXer, yes, it's like mimicking Flutter in a really poor way.
Ah, Flutter. Okay, I see. Yep. Okay, makes sense. Cool. Yeah. So check that out, and then you can check out his session as well. I'm gonna get the playlist here in the thing. Let's see. So, and also I just realized I need to do, one of the things I wanted to do for CodeRage and haven't done yet is I'm going to do a survey of all the MVPs for your recommendations of frameworks and tools and stuff like that, so we can start putting together a directory of resources for people. So I will expect an email from me and more blog posts around that in the very near future here.
Jim, I keep seeing questions. Jim, I keep seeing questions about the 10.3.3 release. I can't share a specific release date, but it's coming soon. And I will say that I would recommend that you follow our blogs at community.idera.com/developer-tools, because that's where we generally announce everything like product releases, webinars, blog posts on interesting topics related to app development, roadmap updates, etc. So I'd recommend that you follow our blog site at community.idera.com.
Debugging anonymous methods, no variables, valuable visibility. Is this something that's going to be fixed soon?
I need to have more information. I would say if you can follow up after the call with some, if there are QP entries or quality portal entry numbers that you could send me, then I could have a look and get back to you. And this is Sarina, if you want to send me an email after the session.
Yeah, and that's, I've been guilty of this, and I still do this from time to time. If you see something that's not working, I always assume, oh, everybody knows it's not working. Yeah, maybe not. So make sure you file a bug and report the bug, and if you're not getting feedback, then, or doesn't see that something's happening, then certainly you can follow up with product management. So here, I'll put in the chat window the playlist link for the session. If you missed it, it's in your GoToWebinar email. You should have 2 or 3 emails from GoToWebinar that include the playlist link there. I'll put it up here so you can see the whole thing as well. So you can go through here and watch these. Most of these are new for CodeRage here, 2019. And then we have some other ones as well that were not specifically CodeRage, but are still great ones. This is, if you haven't seen this video yet, this is an awesome demo of a great mobile app made with Delphi. And this is, Stefans made this one, and he has some his own custom components he's built, and those are all available on GitHub as well. Let's see, anything else? I'm not sure if there's questions I'm missing, anything you guys want to add? Frank, I'll start with you real quick before we wrap up. Anything you want to add, Frank, or anything I've missed?
Yeah, there are some questions about where to start if you're developing VCL apps for many years. And the difference between VCL and FMX is not just that caption is now text. There are some difference, not left and top, you have X and Y, but this is not the problem. For the moment, you have to realize if you're doing an FMX application, be aware, do everything you can in a background thread. Just give the UI thread the most time you can offer, and that's the main trick of doing FMX application. Yeah, you can follow my blog, or you can also send me your questions about where to start with FMX. I would like to jump on your question and do a blog post or a follow-up tutorial video on YouTube. Whatever. There are many questions about how to start and where are the tricks, and I love to help with everything you ask if I can. So please submit your questions or just click me on, do some comments on my blog or send me a message via Skype.
Great. Actually, I'll bring up your blog here real quick since Frank, there it is, right there. One thing, so as far as your comment about making sure you do things in background thread, the new parallel library makes that much easier to do. So I definitely recommend you learn about parallel library. And also doing things in a background thread, honestly, is not a FireMonkey specific thing. It's a generally good practice that we just becomes more and more apparent on newer platforms, especially with FireMonkey. So it's a good thing.
The difference with FMX at this point is that many animations coming from styles or coming from the components are done with timer. And let's say if you click a button, the button down and mouse leave events are done over timer, and you have to wait for the timer finish to do your stuff in the button click event. But the best thing is you're doing everything in this button click event in a thread. And as Jim told, it's not a big deal anymore to do a thread with a library. Also, one key part of FMX development is using the application on idle event to do things after the button click, for example.
Yep. There's a question here, Peter, and Sarina, I see you just answered it about the C data components, enterprise connectors. You want to elaborate on that real quick?
Yes, so this is really exciting news. I'm not sure if everybody on the session is aware, but a couple of weeks ago we announced that enterprise connectors are now part of RAD Studio Enterprise and Architect Edition, and this applies to new purchases and also customers that are current on active subscription. So anybody that's an active update subscription customer with an Enterprise or Architect Edition license is eligible to request a license key for a 1-year subscription license to enterprise connectors, also known as CData FireDAC Professional. And I just pasted a link here to our blog post, or my blog post, that includes a link where you can go. There's a site that we set up. It's a fulfillment site. You enter your eligible license key, and then you're able to claim your 1-year subscription key for enterprise connectors, as long as you are an Enterprise or Architect Edition customer with a new purchase or current on subscription. This does not apply to academic license holders. And if you are a network license user, then please contact support and they can assist you with that if you're on subscription.
Fantastic. So a couple comments about questions about playlist. So the way the playlist is set up is the newer videos here on the top. All these here are brand new for CodeRage 2019. And then as you go down the list, some of these are a little bit older videos as well. Question here, I want to add a simple colored rectangle to a T list view. I tried the design time editor and it can add an image, but not a colored rectangle. You can embed it in there. Sarina, is there anything I'm missing here on this, or how you would do that? There's not a way to do it to the designer, is there?
I'll have to have a look, Fabian. I'll have to have a look at this particular question. I will, why don't you send me an email at sarina.dupont? I'll reply to your message here with my email with that question, please. That way I can make sure to follow up after the session.
Yeah, I know if you use a T-list box instead of a T-list view, then on the list box items you can that you add at design time, you can put any control you want on there, including rectangles. For list views, you may have to do it in the style or as you create the items at runtime, because list views are more optimized for performance, so you have a bit less flexibility in the design there.
If you're new to FireMonkey and you're wanting to get up to speed, check out the playlist here. There's a lot of good information in DocWiki. There's a number of books up on Packet as well, and then of course Andreas is coming in the very near future into the year, so pre-order that one, I guess, if you can. And my advice would be to start working with it if you haven't yet, and try and do some things. And there is a little bit of learning curve, but you'll find that a lot of what you already know how to do is going to come let you get up to speed pretty quickly. Well, here's right there. This is Andrea's new book that's coming here, Delphi GUI Programming with FireMonkey. There, let's see, chat window. Otherwise, I think we're about done. Eric, anything you want to add before we wrap up here?
No, I've nothing to add here. No, thank you.
Yep. Andre, anything you want to add real quick before we go?
Just wanted to say hello to everybody, and give a try to my FMXer if you like to start with FireMonkey in a new way. It's a different approach.
I'll put a link in here.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, anybody else before we go? Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap up. All right, so Stefan just asked if there's support for Community Edition of C++ Builder. Sarina, what's the correct avenue for people to get support if they're with C++ Builder? I know typically if it's a general how-to, it'd be like either a community support is the idea. It's not we don't include
Yeah,
that
for
one.
Community Edition, there's no Embarcadero support for the free Community Edition, but I would recommend you reach out to other developers on our forums at community.idera.com/developer-tools. So that's peer-to-peer support.
Possible to use FMX Graphics classes. We did say you would need, the problem with doing that, mixing that FireMonkey and VCL, is you need to have separated because they're in two different message loops. So you would need to do a DLL or use something like rim objects, Hydra, or something along those lines. So it is possible. It just, you need to be aware that you have two different message loops going on. Okay. Thank you everybody for joining us, and hope you enjoyed it. Get a lot of use out of the playlist, and we will talk to you later. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.